the very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier podcast, where I will sit down and converse with the superstars, the overachievers, the masters of our craft. Each episode will be a deep dive into their personal philosophies, their habits, the tools they use, and the secrets to not only their success, but overcoming failure as well.
First, find somebody you can mimic, then find somebody you can stand, and then try to focus on one style until you master that style.
So if you say I can't do something, well, you're absolutely right. But if you say you're going to, you're absolutely right with that too.
People say that you shouldn't define yourself by your work. That is not true.
You know what Dave Farley does when he's, lucky enough to be at the World Equestrian Games? I'm watching other people work.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that enough.
This podcast is for all of you out there who share my passion for the job and the desire to always improve. These interviews will put you in touch with the inner workings of the role models we all want to emulate. So let's get to it.
There's only so many hours in a day, and it's a matter of what you do with them.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all staying healthy and happy out there. My next guests need no introduction. Anyone who's a farrier, in North America at least, has heard of their competition series, the WCB, or World Championship Blacksmiths. Bodie and Craig Trnka were at the Hoof-Care Summit in Cincinnati promoting the WCB and selling out of some pretty nice road cases that I failed to move fast enough to buy. This was my first interview with two guests at once, and thanks to Bodie's extra headphones and a splitter, we were able to pull it off. It was great to be able to sit down with these two legendary figures and have a chat. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So, I'm sitting here today with Craig Trnka. This has been a long time coming for me. Before I met Craig, you were the person that I turned to when I needed forging advice. I would go on YouTube, look up your videos, and try and figure out how to make those shoes the way that you were doing it.
That's funny, isn't it?
I don't think you realize how many people you have trained using that method.
It's funny. Sometimes it gets weird because somebody's like, we listen to your voice every night before we go to bed because my husband has it on his laptop and I get so sick of your voice and this and that. And it's so nice to finally meet this annoying person with this annoying voice, and it's like, the videos were always something that you could say with YouTube. The greatest invention for like home videos is like you can rewind, you can stop, you can, so it's a good way to just put something on pause and figure that step of the forging out,
Yeah. Now, what inspired you to do that in the first place?
The reason that we started the WCB when we did was because I didn't want to be like Brett Favre or Peyton Manning, someone who was in the waning parts of their career and just trying to hold on. So I figured if we started something where we could help young people at an age where I could still do it, it would be a lot more effective and you could help more people than if I just decided to be selfish and try and win as many trophies. How many trophies are you going to win? How many things are you going to try and accomplish? The WCB was a way to make sure that you kept the trade alive. You know what I mean? Because I think I'm a custodian of the trade. So it's like we have to keep it going.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. So there's been a change of cast, and Bodie has joined in the conversation.
Yeah, he came up with some drinks, and we're ready to go again.
From what we were talking about, the WCB, so you've been a part of it right from the start then, I would guess.
Yeah, pretty much from day one. Been a part of it. I've not missed a contest since. It's been, 12 years, right? 12 or 13?
13 years, and one time he even tortured himself. His brother-in-law was getting married, so he went from Sheridan to Albuquerque one night and came back and helped us load up the tent and load up all the equipment
We did the last
and get
day.
home.
It was a nightmare.
Dedication.
It happened.
Now, just for listeners who aren't familiar with it, what is the setup of the WCB?
Well, it all kind of came to the way it is because I have gone to England and competed. In England, it's just a microcosm of what good education is. It's the right size. What we have is everywhere you go, you have a circle of that person's route. Like, let's just say they're a 50-mile circle, right? Well, then you have all this dead space. So you have good hands and their circles don't overlap. But in England, it's a small country and they have their route and they have 50-mile circles and everything overlaps.
Right. Yeah.
So that people can go and hang out with different people and they can do it a lot more easy and frequently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have a good education process. The registration is good. They have a 4-year apprenticeship. Well, almost everything the WCB is what they do is they go and they compete in go-rounds. At that time in America, everybody backed their truck in an arena and everybody went at the same time. You worked off of your truck, and my truck. But the learning process was almost nothing because if Bodie was competing against me or me against Bodie, we never got to see each other, how we beat each other.
Right. Yeah.
So like you would have people like Billy Carruthers come to the States and we would all be competing on our own rigs, but I never saw Billy Carruthers have a go.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And so when you go in go rounds, what we do is we have the truck and the trailer and you go in go rounds. So you're a competitor 1 round and if there's 12 rounds, then you're a student 11 rounds.
Right.
So the learning just goes up. It skyrockets so quick. And it gets kind of old. Like Bodie and I went on a road trip to Michigan and we loaded the anvils and the stands and we spent a whole evening putting all that stuff in his truck. And then you go on a 10-hour road trip to go to the contest and you have to unload it when you get there, load it back up when you leave, and then unload it back into his shop when we got home. And so the WCB was you go with your hand tools and you throw water bottles on the ground everywhere and you make a mess. And then, and that's for us to pick up.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. And then 5 locations, and we basically took the education to the people instead of making people come to the education.
Right.
It's worked out really good. Like Roy Bloom has documented, I think he's got it down to the science. He's like, if these kids make it 2.5 years at the WCB, they'll be on the WCB team.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
And he's seen it. He keeps track of stuff like that. He's like our statistician, and and he says these kids will be on there in 2.5 years if they go to the contest and they do the best that they can to try and pick up and learn, go through the learning curve.
Right. Now, so contests obviously are pretty prevalent for both of you. They're a pretty big aspect of your lives. How did you get started in that?
Contests are polarizing for people. Competition is polarizing for people. Some people shine away from it. Some people don't like it. But what I saw very quickly is competition was the best avenue and being in the network of people to get what you wanted out of the industry of horseshoeing.
Right. And then for you coming up in it, there's always that thing where you have the parent who's gone and led the way in something. How tough is that to pursue? Like following your father's footsteps? Do you make your own path? The fact that you chose to do it, says a lot about your character, right? Like some people rest just on their parents' laurels. It's a pretty common thing, right?
Yeah. When I started, I pretty much started shoeing horses because the way it was is you either had to go with dad and work or you had to get a job. Basically, you weren't going to sit around at the house. So
Right.
that was the option. So I always liked horses. I always liked riding horses. I just liked being outside. I just was kind of one of those kids that just liked being around horses and outside. So I kind of just naturally drew to shoeing horses. So I would go with dad, and in the summers and pretty much every day I had off from school, we would go shoe horses. That's just what I did. And so he would pay me a little bit, and then gradually as I got handier, he'd pay me better and better, and it was just always better than the alternative, which was like working at Subway or McDonald's or something like that. It just kind of escalated, and then once I got into high school, I started working with him more serious. I don't think I was ever really into the shoe building that much until later. I was into horseshoeing for sure at first, and then the shoe building came later. I would say that I was more into riding in the afternoons when I had spare time than I was into the shoemaking. So I didn't make the shoes or anything right off the bat. Just was into the horseshoeing. And then when I went to college, I shod horses because that was easy money,
Right. Yeah.
Easy money. So, and again, it was a really good alternative to making nothing, working all week, in the afternoons. Like I could go Saturday morning and make more money than my friends did all week working.
Right.
It was just easy. Just to me, it was obvious that you couldn't be very good at it if you didn't get into the competition side of it. Like, it's probably not so simple for everybody else, but just from my background, that was like clear to me. I just had been around some of the greatest dudes in the industry, and they all competed. So it was like, why wouldn't you do that?
Follow the example.
Yeah, that's crazy. So once I decided I was going to shoe horses for a living, I was like, well, I got to start competing. That's kind of what I got to do. So I just kind of got into it slowly but surely and started competing. And then once you start competing, then you want to start whipping people's asses. So it was
Gets
like,
it a little addictive.
you start doing better and start practicing, and then you like start raising the standard on yourself and just get better. And it's kind of how it came to today.
Yeah.
I think part of the didn't want to be in the shoe building thing is because you had that one hurdle. We don't come from an educated family. Like, none of us have had any kind of continuing education as far as we went was grade school.
Right.
As far as my parents and their parents. And so Bodie's the first one in our family that went to college. And he was going to go to college. There was no bypassing college. He was going to go to college, and he did good in college, but I think you had that hurdle.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the same way for Levi. Levi, he's going to go to college. You can do anything you want, but everybody thinks college is like a gateway for more money. But college is about getting an education, and then you could start your life. You know what I mean? And I didn't really think that because I didn't go to college.
Right.
But, like, I got lots of cool things out of Bodie's college. You know what I mean? Like, I got music and a lot of cool things that I was never exposed to. And so I enjoyed it, and now it's like, Levi, he needs to go to college. That goal is right here in front of you, and then you can start your life. And some people don't like that. They're like, I want to start my life right now.
Yeah. It's hard to know what you want to do at that point in your life, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, some people have that gift and that they know. And
honestly, it kind of wrecked me, like, from the start. I mean, obviously it's really hard work, but being a small business owner of any kind, like owning your own business, once you start doing that, you can't really go to the other side.
Yeah, you can't work for somebody.
Yeah, you can't. I never did work for anybody, and I never wanted to. That became really clear once I went to college. There's no way I want to work for anybody. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that. Maybe I could imagine working for myself, doing something different, but I couldn't imagine working for anybody ever. From day one, it was like, just work for ourselves. So shoeing horses was just pretty obvious. Large interest in horses themselves, and I always enjoyed riding. And like, I have a grandpa who's a big cattle rancher in Arizona, and so he just was really always into horses. And so between him and my dad being into horses, shoeing them, it was like, just liked horses and wanted to be around them. So
yeah, that's the best way to do it. So how did you get your start, Craig?
My brother got a piece of property, and he said, if you help me fence the property, you can get a horse. Because I always wanted a horse, but we lived in the city.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, all right. So we fenced his property, and then I did exactly what anybody else would do. I bought a horse by price. I was like, well, that's a cheap one, so that's a good one, right? So I bought a cheap horse, and totally ignorant. I was an ignoramus. My sister-in-law says, you know, you got to work on their feet. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, see the shoes? And I was like, yeah, I seen them, but I didn't know what we're doing with them. And she's like, well, you got to change those every once in a while. I was like, all right. So we had a guy come out. And, you know, I looked through the want ads, and I got a guy to come out, and he had to four-weigh her. He tied her up and threw her on the ground and put the shoes on her. But I didn't know right from wrong.
Right.
So I was like, this is cool. I mean, you know, so the next time he comes out, he just four-weighs her, and she was broke. She was kid broke because I crawled all over her, rode her. I could pick her legs up. I thought it was a macho thing, like, yeah, let's beat the hell out of your animal, right? So
slap some shoes on.
Yeah, and so then there's 3 lies that all horseshoers tell. All horseshoers tell the same 3 lies. I asked him, how many horses you shoe in a day? And he's like, 40, you know, and then how much you charge? $50. And I was like, how good a gas mileage does your truck get? And he's like, I get 76 miles a gallon. And you're like, I'm never going to see a poor day in my life. I'm taking this up tomorrow. So I went to shoeing school, and I looked in the back of Western Horseman, and I cut out every ad, and I wrote off for a brochure on their schools. And at that time, there was about 18 of them in the back of Western Horseman.
Really?
And I did exactly what any human would do. We had an extended family in Minneapolis. I wouldn't have to pay room or board, so I went to Minnesota School of Horseshoeing. When I went the first day, we got our indoctrination, and then later on that week, we went to a vocational school, and we were going to shoe horses, and they're like, all right, Craig, you work on that Palomino mare. And I was like, all right, where are the ropes?
We got to flip this thing over.
Yeah, we got to flip it over. I never seen a horse done standing up.
Wow.
So I was like, well, this seems kind of dangerous. They could have a go at you.
Yeah.
But, it was like ignorance is bliss. I've really never looked back ever since. It's been fun, and I think I was meant to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was great.
I think everybody would agree with that.
But it was weird. It was a weird start. I was like, I'm going to be a millionaire. It's like 40 horses a day, $50 a horse.
And no cost from the truck.
Yeah, exactly. Every time I stop, I got to pour some gas out. It's a little bit of a nuisance, but I enjoy it,
Yeah. And where your home base is now, you said you're New Mexico, right?
Yeah, we're just on the other side of the mountains in Edgewood from Albuquerque. Like the Rockies kind of finish off right there in New Mexico, and Albuquerque's on the west side of the Sandia Mountains, and we're on the east side of the Sandia.
Okay. And is that where you grew up as well?
I grew up in the Northeast Heights in Albuquerque.
Okay.
And like I say, my brother moved out to the country where I do live now, and he's like,
okay.
if you help me fence my property, we'll let you get a horse. And so we fenced his property in, and I got a horse.
Right. Now, you were describing how difficult it is to shoe horses out in your area. One of the things I can imagine is the arid climate. The feet must be so hard.
Yeah, really hard.
In your talk yesterday, you were talking about how you had to be frugal to make a living.
Well, it was a good bargaining chip. Like, one of the things that I really enjoyed about Bodie was after he got out of college, or while he was still in college, actually, it was like, so you think you're going to shoe horses? And he's like, yeah. So I think that the smart business decision is to go where there's a target-rich environment.
Right.
Because I fell in love with my wife, and I'm not moving, and my wife's a native New Mexican.
Okay.
And so whether it's a good target-rich environment or not, that's where I'm going to live, and that's my home.
Right.
But that wasn't so much the choice for Bodie. You would not start a business in New Mexico
Okay.
shoeing horses.
Yeah. Now, what were some of the things that you had to do to make it a successful business and raise a family in that area?
Well, I think you just had to do numbers. We had to do a lot of horses, and you just did what any.
Eat a lot of shit sandwiches.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
And so all my customers just assumed that Bodie was going to slide in to the main spot.
Right.
They were relieved, because people think about themselves. Like, when a horseshoer starts to get old, they're like,
Yeah.
hey, you got a backup plan? You think they're talking about your retirement. And they're like, no, someone to come in and kind of fill your shoes when you're too old and crippled to do mine.
Right.
That's all they worry about. So
Yeah.
they're thinking they're in the catbird seat because they think that Bodie's going to come in right behind me. And I was like, So then they're all kind of disillusioned. Why didn't Bodie shoe horses? I said, he is shoeing horses. Well, how come he's not shoeing with you? I said, well, he's going to go where they have this really, really cool thing called an economy, where like people exchange for money and commerce instead of chicken eggs and flagstone.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I got enough of that shit. We don't need any more of that.
You can only landscape so much.
Yes. And so then they're like, what do you mean? He moved to the state of Minnesota. The acronym is MN. New Mexico is NM. It's a polar opposite. See, they are number 1 in healthcare and childcare. We're number 50th in healthcare and childcare.
Wow.
The only thing that we have is the number 1 DWI rate in
Really?
the United States. Yeah, and that's because
Sometimes Mississippi takes it, but
yeah,
most
we
of the time New
get it
Mexico
back.
does.
Yeah, we get it back. They can only have it for so long.
Albuquerque's the number 1 city in the United States to get your car stolen in.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's third in violent crimes. And we won't get into the political basis of it, but it's really a mysterious place.
Really?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I've been.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and traveled across the whole state, but I was not aware of that.
It's starvation with a view.
Yeah. Now, how much of your practice would then be practicing for these competitions? Like, how did you work out your timing? Like, you're doing your daily shoeing. How do you fit in the time to practice?
I probably shod for 28 years of my life, not really totally believing in what I was doing. And when I say that, like, competition is compartmentalized in your life. And so it's efficiency. the more time you spend making shoes, the less your body's going to hold up. So the more efficient you get at making shoes, the less you're actually making shoes. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Jim Keith told me, man, just because you're under a horse for 20 minutes doesn't mean that you are productive.
Right.
And then Bob Scrazio said, the more you're around a horse, the more apt you are to get hurt. So like if you can do something efficient and quick, doesn't mean it has to be cheap and shoddy or you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to be very effective and efficient when you're under the horse's foot.
Yeah.
When you live in a frugal state like New Mexico, people like Jim Keith really affect your life because he's very smart. He's very precise, and he's really, really handy at what he does. So you have to mimic those things. And then people that have been around me, I've helped them with them, like Chris Madrid. He's a very concise, very quick, and very, very good at what he does. And that's because he lives in New Mexico and he's not going to get paid for what he does. So he needs to be very quick and very good and very precise. And the thing that Bodie has, and I'm just going to say real quick, is that we have the WCB. And when we did the WCB, Bodie was like a freshman in high school, I think. Yeah. And so we didn't know that Bodie was going to be a farrier. And not only that, we really didn't know if Bodie was going to be a competing farrier.
Right.
So now we have this really excellent, awesome venue that Bodie doesn't participate in because he's an owner in it. It just wouldn't work. It would be a bias. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We pick the judges. We pick the format. We help do it. He runs everything. He knows how to, people at the contest is a joke because I yell, Bodie, and it's like he has to fix shit. You know what I mean? And but here's a man that is going to compete, and now he has to sit back and he has to watch. So take advantage of it. He's a brilliant voyeur. He watches, and so he's watched competing. He's watched all that. He watches people make mistakes, and he watches people do things right. And, to go to every contest for 13 years and not get to compete in them, he strikes, he helps people. That's an education in itself, isn't it?
No kidding.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've never competed in them ever?
No, not in the WCB. It's a lot of watching for sure. You learn quite a bit from watching people. You learn a lot of tendencies from competitors and a lot of tendencies from judges. And I definitely think that I have a viewpoint that probably not too many people have because I've just sat on the bench a lot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like,
for sure.
But it's not because he sucks, but it's just because you're not getting in, coach. You're not getting in today and you're not getting in tomorrow.
Yeah.
But the psyche of a competitor is not that at all. Just tonight, Billy Carruthers was telling me if he goes to Calgary to the Worlds that we're putting on this next year, he's like, I would never go to watch because it would just drive me crazy. I hate it. Yeah. Who'd want to go to watch?
Yeah.
And so, you take that psyche and remove it, and then you have to watch, and we're not disciplined to make ourselves watch.
Right. How did you discipline yourself to do that? I could picture some kids being a part of that and just being like, oh, this is kind of boring.
Honestly, we talk about it all the time, and it's for the greater good.
Yeah.
Bottom line is what we do at the WCB is pretty important to the health of the trade in the United States. So
for sure.
And that might be bias or arrogant to say, but it's like it's one of those things where it's become a pretty important part of the trade in the U.S. So whatever we can do to keep it going and keep it going forward, then that's worth it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and you're inspiring people to be better.
Yeah.
Constantly. And drawing them into it too.
From our side is putting on a venue or to being someone who puts on this event, it's a giant buildup. It's hard to watch, but there's a lot that goes on besides the competition for us, for us putting it on.
Oh, yeah, and you meet so many people, and it's like, honestly, I don't have any friends that aren't farriers.
Right.
I don't. It's kind of sad, but it's one of those things where everybody I know and like and hang out with and want to have a part of my life are pretty much farriers. That's just been my whole life forever. It's cool to go 5 times a year, and even if you don't know somebody that good and they keep coming to contests, you start to know them good, and then all of a sudden you're pretty good buds with them. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's a great crowd. I don't care what anybody says. When you come around a WCB, it's the tip-top, good, wholesome people that want to be in that situation. I think that competitors in general are a special kind of people. Like the WCB, the perception of what it is hurts us probably the most. But once people come for the first time, they realize that it's nothing like what it's portrayed to be. It's a way different group of people than is perceived by the general public.
Now, I've run into this situation myself with a group that I'm involved with where we do clinics. We put them on where it's vets and farriers working together on stuff. And the perception, it was actually from a group of competing farriers who thought that we were just out to push our names. And it's interesting. You're not even aware that it's going on at the time, that somebody thinks that your whole mandate is completely different than what it is. So what are some of these misconceptions? This is the perfect place to voice those.
I think one thing is there's no better place to fail or suck at forging than in front of the people who have sucked and failed at forging.
Right.
It's like there's really no egos, and everybody embraces anybody who tries.
Yeah.
When someone's trying, no one really likes to see a comedian fail. Like, you're up there and you're hoping their jokes are funny, and you want to have it, because if they're dry and they suck, it's just a horrible feeling, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So when you go to a competition, people are wanting you to do good. And then when you don't, all of a sudden they embrace you. Everybody takes you in, and they're like, man, we know you had a rough go. This is what you need to do next time. Like I say, Bodie does, among a lot of his gifts, he has the best playlists for music. So we have good music. They don't just put the playlist together. He has round one, day one, and he puts them together, and he gets everybody, like, it's almost like a DJ. We get going, and everything starts to rock on, and everything comes to a peak. And then by the time the evening comes, it's like everybody's exhausted, and then everything starts to slow down and mellow out. But the music, we even have people come out there and just hang out under the tent just for the music. We have the music up loud enough to where you can't talk shit. Like, there's no shit talking. So, like, no one's going to get under there and talk about politics. No one's going to get under there and talk about stuff, because really it's annoying. So you got to go outside the tent to talk.
Right.
Well, if you got to go outside the tent to talk, then the negative energy is outside the tent. And everything is positive, and everything is going forward, and everything is about watching someone and helping someone have that go of a lifetime.
Yep.
It's like when people come, they're like, man, this is nothing what I thought. And we know that. It's a small enough group. I walk up to everybody and I'm like, hey, you guys, after the 3 days is over, I was like, what did you think? The first thing that comes out of their mouth every time is, this is nothing like we thought it was going to be.
Right.
So we feel like we're doing our job, you know what I mean? Because everybody thinks that we've all got a ruler out and we're dick measuring.
Yeah.
That's what they think it is, and it's not. And everybody prefaces stuff, just like when someone says, well, how are your little podcasts going? Well, when they say the word little there, you already know what they think of it, right?
Yep, for sure.
So when someone says, well, how are the hammerheads doing? You're like, you already know. You already know. And it's like, we love animals, man. We love the feet. We love figuring out that stuff. Everybody's in this for the same reason.
Yep. It wasn't until I started competing that I realized the intricacies of what was happening. Like, I had learned a fairly loose style, and my shaping was terrible in the beginning. And just watching how closely everything was looked at and appreciated, it changed the game for me. And then I realized that this is what I have to do. And putting your ego on the line, like, you have to leave your ego outside that tent, go in.
I think that's the biggest animosity for everyone that comes for the first time, is they don't want to show everybody that they're not that great.
Yeah.
Dude, no one cares. If you're not that great, get better.
Yeah, and we
that's
can
what
help you
everyone's
do it.
worried about. Nobody's worried about how good you are or how bad you are. Everybody's worried about getting better.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a hard time going under there and
because we're not your
letting it
customers.
out.
You can tell your customers anything.
Yeah.
Like, I shot Eisenhower's horse. You know, who really cares?
Yeah.
And what made me think about it is, like, when you go to Gilley's in Texas, in the Fort Worth area, they have a Billy Bob's. They have a bull riding ring. So no one's walking around in that bar talking like they're a badass bull rider. Because you know what? We can put you one on you right over here. So the shit talking stops. And that's what it all comes down, is when people come, it's like, you got to make a shoe and you got to do it to the best of your ability. And you know what? Everybody knows exactly where you are because you got undressed in front of everybody. You know what I mean? And it's like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? But once you do it, it's almost like you cleansed your soul. You're like, I got through.
Relief, don't you?
Yeah, you're like, holy cow, this person still likes me and I suck.
Yep.
And
They're still going to welcome me back there next time.
Just like you said earlier, if you show commitment and show that you're going to try, there's not a person under there that won't help you with all they can help, you know? I think that a big part of competing gets a bad name from certain competitors. It's just like any other group. Like, there's going to be bad ones and there's going to be good ones, you know?
And the bad ones will stand out.
Yeah, the bad ones will stand out. There's going to be shitty competitors in everything. But that's the 1%.
Yeah.
And it's just like why people say, well, I don't want to do my CJF. Those guys are dicks. Well, sure, there's people who get their CJF that are a dick.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? But there's also some really great people, and there was a lot of rite of passage that people really, really did some great things for themselves. I went to Walmart one time, and this lady was mean to me, so now I hate all Walmarts. It's like, come on, man. It's not that way.
Yep, for sure. And I think, too, there's a lot about bonding in a struggle. Like, you hear about people in the military, how the people that they fought in that war with are their best friends. They're closer to them than their family. Even going through the AFA certification process, watching how people who you didn't know each other at the beginning of the week doing a course, a pre-cert course, by the end of it, you're trying to help them through that struggle the night before, revamping their shoes for their shoe board. Or
if you go through something, I think that it does bond you with somebody who's going through the same thing. It's like part of how much watching that I do at the WCBs. I see people that are making the same mistakes that I've made 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. You know, you see those people making those same mistakes. Because you've made those mistakes, you can help them. You can tell them, like, hey, I was doing that same dumb shit. Like, there's a way past it, you know?
Now, for both of you guys, who were some of your heroes that kind of inspired you to get to this level?
Like, I was very lucky. People like Jim Poore and Shane Carter and Jim Keith, and then younger people too. There's lots of younger people that inspire me. Like, now I'm getting inspired from the other side of the hill. You know, I'm older, and then you get inspired by Bodie and Chris Madrid and Tom Peters, these younger people that are taking it to the next level. You know what I mean? And that's inspiring. But there's a lot of heroes that walk around out there. And when you shoe horses for a living and you got some longevity, what's amazing to me is there are a couple of old bachelors. You got Terry Stevers and George Fitzgerald. You know what I'm saying? It's like those guys come every year and they teach you stuff and they laugh and they don't talk down to you, but they've been doing it for twice as long as you have. And they give you a pat on the back. Everybody thinks that accolades, and I don't think it comes down to, there's a lot of guys out there that are badasses that just are good human beings that break the same bread and bleed the same blood. You know what I mean?
Yep. I actually had a conversation with my friends at the convention because we'd been walking around, and through my associations with different people, I was able to talk to quite a few people like you guys, and they're like, you almost feel nervous. Like, you see these people and they are your heroes. And they're wandering around, and are they approachable? And I mean, there might be a bad apple or two that maybe thinks that they're above, but I haven't met one yet at this convention. It's amazing. As long as you're willing to go up and strike that conversation with them, if you're brave enough, how much you'll get out of it just in that conversation in the hall.
It's a huge honor, and I don't care what anybody says. This might be a small industry, but when we're in the marketplace and somebody walks up and says, can I take a picture with you?
Yeah.
I don't care. You're not going to get over that, and it's still fun.
Yeah.
And they're nice, and people are super nice, and there's nothing better than walking around and people just want to shake your hand or something. That's awesome. It's just a great feeling. It's cool.
Yeah. And super fulfilling because you know you've inspired them enough that that's what they want.
Yeah,
like be associated with
I
you.
took pictures tonight with like 4 people that couldn't speak English, and they were nervous about asking.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, let's take a picture. You know what I mean? And it's cool, and I'm honored that people would think enough to even want to take a selfie with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and back to those YouTube videos, there are so many people in certain areas where they're kind of isolated. You might not be able to get into other people's shops. They might be isolated geographically or even by the people in their neighborhood who aren't willing to share or whatever. And then all of a sudden you have this mentor who's willing to take the time, post how to make this shoe that you can freeze and rewind and slow motion and do it. But you took the time to do that. That speaks a lot to people. That's why.
And that's cool. It's a little self-serving. We always try and put a plug for the WCB or something like that. But for the most part, it's nothing but pull your hair out because, like, making the video is a blast. But as you know, either my wife or Chad Chance or Bodie have told me that I have no sentence structure. I don't stop when I don't know how to finish a sentence. You know what I mean? You because editing, you like Craig, I say something and I'll stop mid sentence and I'll just keep forging like I finished the sentence
in your head.
Yeah, I finished it in my
I do
head
that all the time.
So then when you get with Chad, Chad's like, you need to learn how to speak. And so he actually is giving me directing lessons. He's like, so what are you going to say in this next sentence? You need to say this, and so basically it's almost like acting lessons. He's like, you need to finish your sentences. And then he'll cut sometimes and say, dude, talk to me. Yeah. They're a pain in the butt, really. They're a lot of work.
Well,
it looks,
yeah. I bet. And that's why I think people will have to recognize that. Not just that the videos are a lot of work. There's a lot of knowledge that had to go into, hey, this is how we make this shoe. You're putting yourself out there. There's a lot of criticism out there on the interweb. It's an easy spot to hide behind a screen and critique what you're doing. Well, that's wrong or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Like on Facebook, I'm all right. But when you go into the YouTube comments, those people are even a step lower as far as being polite. The YouTube group, they just were like, you suck, kill yourself. You know what I mean? And it's like
Troll City.
Yeah, it's Troll City on YouTube. So I don't even like to go down in the bracket below the video. I don't go there.
No. It'll drive you to drink. Now, for both of you, now you're presently on the team, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And you've been on the team. What has that experience been like? First of all, was that a goal that you just set out? You knew that that's where you wanted to be? Or was it something that as you went along, you were like, oh, I guess I could get there? How did you set yourself for that level?
Well, the first for me was like I saw those dudes. Those dudes were like my Michael Jordans and Larry Birds. Like when I saw Shane Carter and Bob Pethick, Jim Poore, Grant Moon, when I saw those guys and they were on the team, I was like, that's where I want to go.
Right.
Once you realize you can do it, there's a lot of aha moments for people. Like the first time you weld your bar shoe.
Yeah.
All of a sudden there's a lot of shit that goes through your head. You're like, I could do a lot of things. Right?
Yeah.
Like first time you get your bar shoe to stick and it looks like a foot. Oh, I could do this. And then the second you hear yourself saying, if I practiced, I could get pretty good at this. And some people never even make the correlation. Like they're like, those guys are really good because they're really good.
Yeah.
No, those guys are really good because they burned up a lot of steel.
Yeah. Made a lot of mistakes.
And so then when you get on there, it's addicting. It's addicting. It's like heroin or probably anything else. You're like, I want to be on here again. And then when you go to England, they always jerk the rug out from underneath you. Like, it's like, you're never going to win. So next year, we're going to kick their ass, right?
Yeah.
And then get on the team again. Next year, we're going to kick their ass. And then Bodie said it. He goes, there's these mysterious animals in England that they come out and they kick the shit out of you. You know what I mean? And they're everywhere. There's mysterious guys over there you've never even heard of that kick your ass, And so there's a whole island of them over there.
Yeah.
You keep going and you keep trying to devise a way to, the goal was to win at Stoneleigh. It's an international competition. You know what I mean? And we never have.
Keep coming.
You just keep coming. And I don't know how it correlated with Bodie though.
It's the same thing. It's like you just want to be like the guys who are really good, I think. What I see confusion in younger guys, it's like people want to reinvent the wheel, and it's one of those things where a lot of stuff that I've done or still are trying to do is imitate people who I really think are awesome.
Yeah.
Trying to accomplish the same things, and even right down to forging skills. The way that I try and get better is by observation of people who are better than me, because there's a reason that they're better than me.
Right.
They're doing stuff better, and I always try and imitate people, even just everybody. Chris Madrid, Tom Peterson, Stephen Bean, Dad. You just try and imitate those people. And like, I've seen a lot of success come out of being on a team. Pretty much everybody that I've seen who's been successful has been on a horseshoeing team. And I got to be on a horseshoeing team at the Classic one year, the year before I made the American Farriers team for the first time. Once I was on that team, it really opened my eyes to what being on a team can do for your success. It's a whole nother level. Like, competing definitely helps you a lot, but then another level on top of competing is competing with the team. you go to a practice with teammates and you're not only relying on yourself to do good, but you're relying on your teammates to do good, and they're relying on you.
Yeah, you're accountable to
to
3
do
other
good.
people.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no equality on a team. That's what's funny, is people think everything's equal, and it's not equal at all.
No. There's definitely a totem pole.
Could you unpack that? So how does that work?
Well, like Bodie might need 47 minutes, and this guy might need 46 minutes, and this guy might need only 28 minutes.
Right.
But there's no equality. It's like you have to present and supply minutes to those people who need it to get it done.
That's part of being on a team. I think that that's a big thing that I've learned by looking at successful teams is successful teams, like he says, they're not equal. You have guys who are good at some things and bad at others, but the thing that makes them successful is that they
hide those.
They realize what people's strengths are and play to them. A person who's really set in their career and competed a bunch, you're not going to change them at all. They're going to do what they do, no matter what. They might sacrifice a little here and there, but they're going to do what they do. People are predictable, and so you see so many people get pissed because a person is acting just like they acted for their whole lives. And you're like,
that guy screwed me on Tuesday, and look, he did it here again on Saturday.
Yeah, you're like, well, why would you get mad at that guy for being that guy? Figure out how to work around him. It's funny. I'm going to do like a shout out to Brian Osborne, because Brian Osborne, I was on a team with him, and our team quote got to be that year that we were all on the team with him. We'd always tell Brian, you do you, and we'll work around you. He was just going to do whatever he wanted to do. So it was like, we always told him, hey, Brian, look, just you do you, and we'll all work around you. There's a lot of truth to that, because I think everybody's got to do everybody, and everybody else will work around.
And really, that's the epitome of a leader, isn't it? Because the leader actually sees all that, has to put it all together.
Right, in an effective way.
Like Stephen Bean, he's fast, he's a good shoemaker, but Stephen Bean never, on his team, when you watch, he never gets as much time as anybody else, because he knows what a score sheet looks like. He's like, this
guy, facilitator.
Yeah, he's like, this guy's going to take this much, and we need an 8-8 out of him. So I think that I'm capable of changing my motor pace over here. Stephen Bean never gets to do what he wants to do on a team, because he is like a big luxury. He's someone who can make time for you.
Yeah.
The best man on the team usually is pushing a broom and making sure everybody's being them.
Yeah.
And bad teams are just the opposite. Everyone gets pissed at everyone because they're doing what they do, and they pretty much crumble.
They expected them to do something different.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they say, he got 48 minutes, I get 48 minutes. That ain't how it works at all.
Yeah.
That guy took 48 minutes. Now we got to figure out where we're going to get that back.
Catch it up, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, do you guys think this is a good spot to, it's like a short answer thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
This portion of the podcast is called the Stratum Tectorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy. What's your favorite book?
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Favorite brand of work boots?
I live in Minnesota now, so I got to go with the Red Wings.
Okay.
They got Red Wing stores all over, so I just go there and buy them. They're nice.
I got to say that the last pair of boots I got were Red Wings. That's funny. That's kind of weird, but yeah, that's what I got.
Okay. Favorite make of rasp?
Man, Alan Horton just gave us I don't even know what it's called now. It's like a prime level. Bellotta prime level, I think, the new one. It's like a brand new wide, got a nice finish side on it. I've been using it, and it's pretty sweet so far, so I'm probably going to buy a box and see if they hold up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I can't just go with just one, because I like that one that Alan Horton gave us, the prime, and I think that once Giorgio Basali gets the finish side and the rasp side sorted out, I think he'll have it, because he's got one that's got a really good rasp side. He struggles with the finish side, but he's only been making Farrier rasp for a few years. His family makes files forever, and once he gets it sorted out, I think he'll be set.
Okay. Stay tuned. Do you have a dream Farrier rig?
Yeah, for sure. I get into pickups pretty good. I like pickups a lot, and I think that it would be badass to have like an old Chev with the Stonewall or a Bay Horse or whatever Farrier rig on the back of it.
How old?
Like 70s, early 70s model.
Yep.
Chevy. 2-wheel drive with the old school, or just a body on it on the back.
Yeah.
Could be cool.
If I could have the dream rig, I'd get me a Toyota Hilux with the diesel motor, get it over here 4-door with a small shoeing body on the back. Because in America, you can't buy a diesel, like a small diesel.
Yeah.
But in England, since fuel's $9 a gallon, a Toyota Hilux with 4 doors, diesel, with a Neil Purdy body on it.
Okay. Favorite rounding hammer?
I have a Heller, a 2-pound Heller, an old Heller. That's the one that I like the most, but I use the catatonic, the hammer that Dad has, quite a bit, and I use Jim Pour, like the new style 2-pound Jim Pour.
Okay.
What I got the best is the Jim Pour 2-pound, the new style Jim Pour, and the catatonic. Those are the ones that are always sitting there right by the back of the anvil.
Okay, yeah. That's the true tell right there, right? Favorite type of bar stock to work with?
3/8x1. Nothing will make you better like 3/8x1 will.
Yes, 3/8x1 is just like the journeyman test or anything else. It's 3/8x1. Once you fall in love with that, you get to know the horn and everything.
Yeah.
You cut yourself 11 inches of 3/8x1 and make horseshoes out of it. That's going to make you better the fastest. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
It will.
Currently working on that. Favorite pastime after work?
Sex.
That's a given.
That's terrible. Probably drinking.
Yeah. The other one. Yeah.
Debauchery.
To tell you the truth, at this time in my life, I make horseshoes.
Yeah.
That's
You're
like,
dedicated to.
that's what I do. So, I don't know. That's pretty much my hobby right now.
Yeah.
I'd probably like to have other hobbies in the future, but right now, that's what it is.
Gotcha. Now, what's the next thing on your bucket list?
I think I wanted to do the World Championships, and we got a shot at it this year. And so, man, nervous, animosity, worried, yeah, but I'm actually getting to do my shot at it. So,
Awesome.
It's hard to say for any one thing. I want to, like I said earlier, just kick everybody's ass, really. That would be a goal.
That covers a lot of bases.
Yeah.
It does. Do you guys ever use keg shoes? I've got a favorite brand of keg shoe. Do you ever put keg shoes on?
I do not. Well, that's a lie, I guess. I shoe a handful of thoroughbred racehorses in the summer,
Okay.
and I put Kirkhart's King's plates on.
Okay.
Those are the only keg shoes I use.
Right.
The rest of them I make, which, like Dad said, he didn't say it on the podcast, but he said earlier, it's like I almost feel embarrassed when I tell people, like if I'm doing a clinic or if I'm at a contest and they ask me, I'm like, it almost like makes you feel embarrassed, like to tell people, because it makes you kind of sound like you're a purist. You're better than somebody because you only make your shoes. That's not why I do it, but I started my shoeing business when I moved to Minnesota, and I wasn't shoeing hardly any horses, obviously, because I'm brand new to the state.
Right.
So I was building a business, working for another farrier, Terry Dawkins. I'm just going to make my shoes for the horses that I do shoe. And so then from there on, I just never have bought any shoes and keep making them. And it's like, to tell you the truth, it kind of spoils you. Yeah, it's a lot of work to make your shoes, but it makes you shoe horses really good, I think. And putting them on is way easier. Especially once you get to the point where you got it somewhat sorted out, where they go on easy, you know, it's way easier. Don't you think?
yeah, I would ditto his sentiment. Favorite keg shoe? I used to shoe with St. Croix lights, everything.
St. Croix light rims, baby.
St. Croix
That's what-
light rim, baby. That's what we put
all-
everything on.
That's what we put on. Yeah.
Now, when you say that there's that perception, have you ever heard that? Has anybody ever vocalized it, or you just...
That's the Facebook norm, I would say.
Oh, okay.
That's the
Yeah.
social media norm. Like if you just put on handmaids, you're a prick, you're a purist, and you think you're better than everybody. And it's like, I don't even tell my customers either. Like Dad was saying that too. He doesn't tell his customers, and I don't tell them either. It's like, just put them on, you know? If there does come a day when I don't want to do it anymore, it's dumb to put yourself in that hole telling everybody.
you painted yourself in the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? So
No, and I have found that in my particular area that I work, that there are lots of great shoers in my area, and some of them are all handmaids, and the clients have no clue that that's what's happening. And when I put them on, sometimes I'll say something, sometimes I won't, because it doesn't really matter to them. Leather or synthetic pads?
leather.
That's been pretty much everybody's answer. Favorite type of horse to work on? Everybody says an easy one. Is there a breed or...
It's not as much about the horse as it is the client. They leave me alone and pay money, and they got a good horse. That's the most important part.
You can tell what kind of horses you're going to work on before you get behind the house.
It's true.
If they're a spaz, the horse is a spaz. If the people are quite lethargic, the horses, it's like the environment they are. So like if the people on the phone, you can get a pretty good idea what the horses are going to be like because they're jittery. The people are, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I think with what Bodie says is correct. If the people are somewhat normal, their horses are going to be somewhat normal.
No, that makes total sense. Ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day.
1.
No. Yeah, that's why we're doing handmaids.
Yeah, exactly.
I think ideal for me and the income and what I need to make, I would say between 4 and 6.
Okay.
I think that's a steady number for sure. 4 to 6. Once you start going over 6, it starts sucking.
Yeah.
You're tired.
It's not very fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work after that.
Yep, for sure. Will you build shoes at the horse?
No, everything's about efficiency at the horse because a horse has the mental capability of lasting about 45 minutes to an hour. So you need to fit it in there.
Yeah.
I agree. Obviously was taught most of everything from him, so I'm copying most of that, yeah.
Gotcha. Favorite anvil?
Those Anvil brand anvils that we've been using at the WCBs are pretty sweet.
The Legends and the Mighty Boy.
The Mighty Boy
those are the
Scott,
two.
Mighty Boys, those are the two best
There's
anvils
only really
for sure.
two running in the competition. And it's those two. And when I say competition, those are the ones that want to make a traditional English pattern anvil, and those are it. That's the best. Those are the best ones.
Right. Favorite inspirational quote?
I think Dad should probably do both of them because he's a quote master.
Yeah, I figured.
We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit.
Cool.
That's good enough for me.
For your accounting, do you use software? Do you have an accountant? Do you do it yourselves?
We do QuickBooks, and my wife does that.
Okay.
I use the iForge Ahead software for the books, and then I have an accountant. So I do my own record keeping, and then at the end of the year I send it off to an accountant.
Okay.
And they sort it out.
And what do you use as agendas?
I'm new school, and I just use my phone calendar.
Yeah, I'm just trying that now.
I do the calendar day by day, month by month, and I write everything down, and I give people a card when I leave. And I say, this is the day I'm going to be back. And some people give me the inclination that they need a bump up reminder, and some people just know I'm going to be back on that day at 9:45.
Okay.
And then some people are just a little irresponsible, and I'm going to call them on Monday to let them know I'm going to be there on Thursday.
Right. Yeah, you learn that over time, don't you? An app that has most improved your work life?
Definitely, for me, Google Maps.
Especially it's been a saver for me.
Moving to a new place.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I moved to a whole new state, so Google Maps is definitely the app I use the most.
People send me a pin or whatever, and it's the best thing. Because I can remember new customers suck because you're like, all right, I'll call you on Saturday night and I'll get directions. And then you know what directions are like. There's a white church. It's not there anymore. It burned down. But it used to be there, and take a right, but I'll agree. We're the same animal there. I think that's saved me a lot of time.
Yeah. It's actually one I've never thought of, but yeah, it has definitely for me too. Preferred social media platform?
They say that the movement's going towards Instagram, and I'm definitely more into Instagram now than Facebook. Yeah. Facebook's got a lot of baggage with it. There's a bunch of bullshit that goes on Facebook. But I still get on there, but not near as much as I used to. I'm definitely more on Instagram.
With the WCB, we used to have a magazine. Scott Davidson was helping us with the magazine, and then it went away. So we had to find some sort of a platform. So Facebook is a platform for us. I spend about an hour in the morning getting everything and kind of looking through the feed and then putting our posts up. And it's definitely, you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
It's good for us. And like Bodie says, the rules of thumb is don't get on there when you've had alcohol.
Yeah.
Certain guidelines that you do so that you don't get caught in Trollville. You know, because I still catch myself. I was like, that son of a bitch, and then I get caught. But you try and stay above the fray. It's hard, but you try.
Yeah. Yeah, don't let them drag you down. Favorite method of soothing aches and pain?
Alcohol, definitely.
I don't do Advil. I don't do any of that. I'm not really a big touchy-feely person, so I don't like going and getting a massage.
No?
No, neither am I.
So I listen to my body a lot. I do listen to my body. Like if it hurts, then I don't use that part, and I try to get by. But I guess alcohol.
Right?
If I have a big day, I definitely have to have a drink or two at night. I don't drink every night, but if I've had a big day, a drink or two helps loosen you up.
Right.
Don't listen to me, kids.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do. Favorite brand of jeans?
I wear a lot of 20X jeans.
Wrangler, right?
Yeah, Wrangler.
I've been switching over to I think the Ariats. My wife has found some, and we're kind of like, sometimes they carry them, sometimes they don't, and you know what I mean?
I
So was
hate
like,
it when you get a pair that you like and then
you
they
can't
stop
get them
carrying
no more.
them.
Yeah,
it's like-
that's it.
For us, I wear 38 inseam, and it's like, it's hard to find them
Oh,
in
I
the store.
bet. Yeah.
So you have to buy them online. And then
They always laugh, don't they? When you go into
Yeah.
a place and they're like, I need a 38
It's a
inseam. They're like, they got lots of fat people jeans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 38 wide.
Yeah, 38
30
wide.
long. Yep. Favorite drink?
I think between a gin and tonic and a Crown and Ginger Ale, those are the two.
I'm getting older, so I'm going to have to say that my wife makes the best coffee. So I'm going to say coffee
Oh.
in the morning.
There you
Coffee's
go.
good too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Favorite genre of music? It's come up quite a bit, actually, in the discussion.
I think I've switched over to red dirt music, like Texas country, not Nashville country, but Texas country. I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Yeah. Texas country, red dirt country. There's some pretty good artists in that field of music for sure. Listen to a little of everything, obviously, but that's definitely the main.
He says he does. We'll be in a public place, and then a dirty, nasty rap song will come up on his playlist, and it'll be filthy. And it's like, so he's into everything.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of everything.
Yeah, very similar. Sometimes I have to drop my tools and run to the
Oh,
trailer.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Do you work out?
We're kind of in a point of transition. My wife has some health problems, but I like to work out with my wife. Like we used to ride bikes a lot. And so like riding road bikes was a good workout, and it was really good for us. But we don't do that so much now. But I think we'll get back into it. It's just kind of a swinging phase right now. But I definitely think you need to do something to offset the grueling one-sidedness of horseshoeing. Because it's like you have to do something to offset that.
Yeah. How about yourself?
Yeah, we got into road bikes as a family.
Okay,
whenever
that's
we
cool.
were littler, whenever I was littler. So, I mean, I've ridden quite a bit too, and I like that. But it's one of those things where it's just like making shoes. You got to do it a lot to be good at it.
Mhm.
And I've never really looked at it as a workout kind of thing. But I mean, it is a workout, obviously. But I've always taken it as something that you should do good, you know. So as of now, I do not. My wife works out like crazy. Like she's a huge runner. And she works out every morning at like 4 a.m. and I don't do that at all. So
Stay in bed a little longer?
yeah,
Do you meditate?
Oh, yeah, that's what the anvil is.
Yeah.
I definitely think like I get lost. Being in the forge, I can burn 3 hours like it's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's huge meditation.
Yep.
I agree. I think that just doing something like that you like, meditation for me for sure. It's the same. It's like I can be out there, and I kind of get bummed out when I don't have that much time to be out there. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
really 3 hours is not that much time when you think about being out there.
It does disappear.
It's
pretty
fast.
quickly. Yeah.
So try and set aside that amount of time to be out there, and it goes by like so fast.
And you're multitasking. You're making shoes, but you're also saying like, how am I going to attack this conversation I have to have next week with this person or this task? And you actually you're doing those steps in your mind while you're making your shoes. And you're concentrating on the shoes, but that's what helps you get over those humps of like, I don't want to have this confrontation with this lady. And then you build this shoe, and then you figure out a way that you're going to have this confrontation with this lady and get through it. You know
Right.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that is, in a sense, meditation, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. There are varying kinds of it, right? But even just the fact that those 3 hours disappear, you're in that flow. You shut off certain parts of your brain because you're focused on what you're doing there. But at the same time, it's processing in the background, like you said, situations like that. What can get you out of just hearing the constant voice, right? And focus on something else, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What would you have been if not a shoer?
You go first. I don't know. I got to think about it for a second.
I think a professional bowler.
Oh, bowler, yeah. He would have been a bowler for sure.
Really?
He's a badass. There's a bowling alley around here. We need to go.
I did have aspirations of being. Is that how you say it? Is that a word I made up?
Yeah, no, you
You
got
made
it.
up one while ago. I was going to catch you on, but then I was like, no, it's too early in the podcast. We'll have to listen to it back. But you did.
No, I like bowling. I wanted to
5
be a
or 10
professional 10-pin.
Okay.
It sounds corny, but I definitely, whenever I was younger, I had aspirations of doing cowboy stuff for
Yeah.
sure. But I don't know. I grew up to where it was kind of like horseshoeing. That was pretty much center stage.
Yeah.
Like looking back on it now, even though it didn't really seem like center stage, it was always center stage in the back of my head.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's cool. And you made a lot out of that. One last question. Who would you recommend that I talk to for something like this?
I definitely think that Tom Willoughby you could burn 3 hours with that dude. It would feel like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He's one of those dudes, like, I got to know Tom from going up there and whittling. Like, I knew him, but when you whittle, like whittle on wood in a shop for 5 days, you tell stories. And, and he's like a very interesting man. Jim Keith. I think that the way you're doing this is cool. I think there's lots of people. I think you got a very unique market because, like we were saying, there's a lot of cool people in this industry.
Yeah.
Everybody drives around in their truck. That's one thing that all farriers have in common, it seems like. So
Yep.
I think that people got time to listen to cool stories from cool people. Tom
Yep.
Willoughby is definitely would be a good one because he's a dude that's shot a lot of horses, and now he's moved on to a different part of his life where he's doing a lot of cool, badass, artistic blacksmithing and woodworking, and just a cool, interesting, been in the military, badass dude.
Was in the country music singing
Yeah,
industry.
he was singing in country music, yeah.
Yeah, he might be 3 podcasts worth.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much, guys. I
Thanks
really
for
appreciate
having us.
taking
Thank
the
you.
time to
Thanks
do
for
this.
having us, man.
This
It
is
was
great.
awesome.